Welcome on in, everybody. Tobin here with you. Thanks for checking out the channel. Just got back from being boots on the ground at the Kaseya Center, watching your Miami Heat get their 7th straight victory as they beat the Brooklyn Nets for their little pit stop at home, 122-115. Now it's bon voyage to another handful of games over the Thanksgiving break, and they'll see if they can keep this puppy rolling. This was an interesting game because the Miami Heat have already faced the Nets twice at home, once in preseason, once in the regular season. But I wasn't aware of this. I didn't even know this coming in. I hadn't even thought about it. But I think it was either Tommy Tiger, maybe it was Solana. They were like, hey, the Nets have won 5 shares. Like, oh, that's kind of weird. I didn't even think about it like that, but okay. And there's one reason that this game, I think, turned out the way that it did tonight. The Heat could have very easily been exhausted, let their guard down a little bit, long road trip, first home game. Sometimes that's a tough go. Sometimes that's a tough thing to return, especially from a successful road trip. And, I mean, this man right here, this man gets the Heat game ball for the night.
You mentioned their injuries, and obviously your injuries are well documented. I'm curious regardless of what lineups are out there, what have they done that have caused you guys difficulties in the last several games?
I'm not going to concede that. I mean, this is just competition. We got to figure it out. Whether they think they've handled us easily or whatever, I don't know where that's coming from. But we'll just. They're a good team. You have to respect that. And they play fast. They shoot a lot of threes. They're a very good driving team. We do some things that we think we do very well also. And now we'll just figure out, who can be the better team tonight. All right? Thank you.
Now, I don't know who that individual is. I assume he's a Nets reporter. I don't see him frequently. And he's asking about the Nets. And look, I don't think it's an out-of-bounds question because the Nets have won 5 in a row. They have had success against the Heat. But you could just see immediately the flipping of the switch to Erik Spoelstra to maniac, which is what he is competitively. This is a man who has the credentials to match anybody in the sport outside of maybe Greg Popovich. But he's a top 15 all-time coach, 2-time champion, been to 6 finals, has coached the best of the best, probably going to be the next coach of Team USA, going to be in the Hall of Fame one day, probably going to be the highest paid coach in the league next year. And this man, the reason I think he's so successful and why you see maybe the likes of a team that the bums don't want to talk about be as successful as they are is because he is a maniac. He loves competition. It's not just a saying. That's who he is. He always seems to be the guy that's in the film room with the stack full of tapes and always trying to get the edge out. And so when this individual happens to mention, this team's gotten the jump on you for the last handful of times, Erik Spoelstra was like, no, they haven't. And you could just see like the evil spirit of competitive edge roll through him, and he was ready to go. I feel like his pregame message to the team was simply to play that exchange. Let's go out there in our Heat Culture jerseys and a beautiful Heat Culture court. Man, that thing looks sweet today. And go whoop some ass. And they really, I think, had this game in it was a comfortable game for Miami, especially the third quarter, and really especially because of Jimmy Butler. We have seen now these last couple of games, Jimmy Buckets has looked absolutely tremendous. He had a season-high 36 points tonight, but you got to see a little bit of everything from Jimmy. First of all, he is gunning for shooting 50% from 3 on the season. He dipped a little bit below that tonight, but he is like showing off to the bench. He's chirping at the bench. Apparently, Kevin Love is also instilling some kind of motivation here. If you read Jimmy's agent's Instagram page, that seems to be the vibe I'm getting, that Kevin Love is trying to challenge Jimmy and push Jimmy a little bit, which I love. Kevin Love, it's interesting because he's now essentially the Heat's backup center. They did not play Thomas Bryant tonight, but you can tell that team really loves him. And, I remember one of the things that I really loved, I started covering the Heat in the locker room again regularly Jimmy's first season. And one of the things that I loved about the locker room before things got shut down with COVID is just seeing the players vibe off each other. And, one of the big things that helped with that was Goran and Jimmy BSing with one another, shouting across the locker room during interviews. I think we all saw this on the road with Jimmy, where he had that chaotic interview on Bally the other night. And that was happening today with Kevin Love during, he was chirping with Duncan Robinson with Jimmy Butler, all the heckling that's going on. And then, Kevin Love is walking behind Caleb Martin and he's making fun of the media staff, warm-heartedly, but is like dropping F-bombs in the back of interviews. And yeah, Kevin Love is bringing a vibe. And some of that was there last year, but, it's still there this year. And, this is already a guy who, got some coaches' decision sits this year. And, coaches now find this new role for him. And the team just really feeds off of him. I think that, Duncan Robinson is the other great story of this game that we'll get to. And Kevin's had a piece in that as well. But getting back to Jimmy, I mean, just, the 3-point shot was there. The patented being able to attack the rim, got double-digit free throws tonight. Had this big time moment at the end of the half where gets the steal, dishes it off to Haywood Highsmith, who was getting his D Wade on a couple minutes beforehand with his over the head. But Jimmy just seemed like he had that mode, and they put a bunch of different guys on him. He had jumpers over Nick Claxton. He cooked Royce O'Neal on back-to-back plays, blew by him for a dunk, got an and one on a jumper. Spencer Dinwiddie, he was posting up every single time. He really slowed up the game, and then by the time he was done beating him up, he started dishing out to shooters and finding Love and finding, whoever was open. So, I mean, while we were saying this the last game with Jimmy Butler, it was the best Jimmy Butler game. Now this is the best Jimmy Butler game. And so I guess the big news of all of this is it looks like Jimmy Butler's back. And it's not like Jimmy Butler fell off a cliff, but it certainly looked like he was working his way back. Mind you, didn't play in the preseason at all, did some practices, but didn't have any action, had a dental surgery or something like that. But he's looking very familiar. Like, this is the guy. And he was tremendous tonight. Now, getting to Duncan Robinson, it's great to continue to see what he's doing, and it's right up there with the best stories of this team this season. And yes, Tyler Hero being out is certainly fueling some of this, but Duncan was playing well even with Tyler before Tyler messed up his ankle. And I think the thing that's interesting, and everybody kind of just notices this about him, Duncan's been a guy his entire career that you feel like you can read him with the body language, right? Like, he's a guy that's like, yeah, when he's good, he's fired up. But like when he struggles, you can see he kind of look, be like he would wear his struggles a little bit. And I think everybody kind of just notices, like, this guy's got a bravado to him. We talked a little bit about this in the playoffs, that he changed. Like, he was a guy, and I said he went from aw shucks to no fucks. This man gives no fucks anymore. He's been through everything. He has been to the highest of highs. He has been to the lowest of lows. He has had great riches given to him. He has had his job taken away. And pundits and fans, wondering, was this a colossal mistake? Is his contract an albatross? And he just doesn't. For a guy that seemed like the hits bothered him, and almost to the point where the team didn't believe in him anymore. They went to Max Strus. Now they're gone. Gabe Vincent's gone. And this man seems bulletproof. It just doesn't seem like you could rattle him at all because he's too versatile now. It was funny, like Coach Tony Fiorentino, I was on the floor today watching Bam and Duncan show up. And by the way, I have a fun Bam thing that I'm saving for Tobin and Leroy tomorrow, so I hope you guys can tune in for that. But Tony, Coach Fiorentino was saying, like, that man right there is a completely different player. He goes, and he is showing you his smarts, he's showing you his work ethic, and he's showing you, all of everything he's put into this because he made himself this. And I thought it was cool. Like, Coach Tony's been around. He knows the game, and he's been on the Heat stat. This man notices. Watched a lot of Heat basketball. And Jimmy Butler asked him about it after the game. This is what Jimmy had to say.
I mean, Dunk's a hooper. I think everybody, they skip over a lot of his skill set, and they only focus on his three-point shooting ability. And he's actually not the best three-point shooter on our team as we're speaking right this second. But he's been hooping, putting the ball on the floor, throwing lobs, finishing at the rim, obviously making threes, getting to the free throw line. Damn, that kid is super confident, and he'll let the world know. So kudos to him. Thank you. Bye.
So it's certainly been noticeable. And yeah, I do feel like it's a Duncan Robinson who's, just walking around with a little bit of a pumping out his chest. I feel like with him, we saw the mean mugging in the playoffs. We saw him, taunt the Boston crowd and things like that. Just a guy who just mentally, I don't know if it's just a maturity or if it's experience or all of it. I don't know. But it's a really cool thing to watch. He was awesome tonight, 26 points for the Heat. Other big story from the game tonight, Bam Adebayo was pretty good tonight. Was pretty good, did a little bit of everything, gave you, again, his 20 points, 7 rebounds. But I think the thing that was fun to watch with Bam tonight, you can definitely see Bam. You talk about things I think you just notice from guys. I think you just see a guy who's just got that. Bam's got a little bit of a mean streak to him this year. Who, he's always been ultra competitive. He's always played ultra hard. He's always done that. That has never changed. I feel like he's playing with a little bit of, I'm going to mess you up. And this matchup today was a good one. Nick Claxton's a good player. Nick Claxton is a good player. He's a great defender, but he's not big as Bam. But he's a pterodactyl. He's got giant wingspan, and he'll catch lobs, and he'll get great block shots, and he will talk a lot of bleep. And he was also right up. But even with him giving up weight to Bam, he was in Bam's kitchen a lot. And Bam was not a fan of that because he felt like there was a lot of cheap shots. There was one point Bam got an offensive foul, and him and Spo both lost their minds. Just a lot of jockeying for position. And when Bam's just, it's a dead ball and he's just in Bam's space. And so, nothing that was dirty, but it was annoying. It was annoying. And there was a point in today's game where in the fourth quarter, Bam just yams it on Nick Claxton and gets a foul call and complete flexes. And I was talking with the the person that was next to me at the game, and I was like, look how much, Nick Claxton's annoying him, and gets the dunk. I'm like, I'm like, that probably deserved a tech. Remember when Giannis got the tech the other day for Isaiah Stewart and he got kicked out of the game? It was worse than that. Like, Bam was basking in that dunk on Nick Claxton. I love it. And Bam's he just seems to have a little bit of nasty to him. And I love it. I love that from him. So that was great. And then final thought on tonight's game, Caleb Martin coming back. He looked tremendous tonight with just kind of seamlessly fit in. Didn't feel like it was forced. I was wondering, the minutes, how is it going to affect? And he played, 12 minutes tonight. And I think fourth quarter kind of being in hand most of the way. He probably got a little bit more run than they thought he was going to. But, kind of got involved right away, just dealing assists. He got a 3, he got a tech. But it was great to see Caleb Martin out there. He looked, I thought he physically looked really, really good, and excited to see what he can bring to the table with this team. But man, they're rolling right now. 7 straight, 8-4. The Bums won't talk about it. You already know this, but we'll keep talking about it and we'll keep enjoying it. The Heat, with a victory, get themselves a win at home, and now back out on the road to the Windy City.